Cafe, located in the picturesque La Ricotta Plaza, serving locally sourced cuisine inspired by the flavors of the Riviera.
Hello, I'm Twyla Kim. I've been an artist and hairstylist in Santa Barbara for 20 years. I personalize color, design, and precision haircuts for each individual at Sequel Salon in Montecito. I'm happy to be sponsoring Get Conscious Now.
I'm attorney Gregory Lowe. I will prepare your trust, bankruptcy, divorce, conservatorship, probate, evictions. All of this I can do at an affordable price and with caring. Thank you very much.
When I was growing up as a kid, I used to go around with them and watch them.
My mother and I both worked at Lowry Field.
To keep on doing this together.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Get Conscious Now. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Patricia Diorio, and I'm here tonight with my wonderful co-host, Stu Zimmerman, and we have a great show planned for you tonight. Stu, do you have any words of welcome for our viewers?
I do, Patricia. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Because Get Conscious Now really is a conversation, a relevant one, and so much more. Because at its heart, it really is an experience. It's a life experience that can really make a complete difference in how we view and do everything for the better.
Thanks. Great. Thanks, Stu. So for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, Get Conscious Now is about understanding that we are all energy beings having a human experience. And even more importantly than that, well, I don't know if we're more importantly than that, but importantly is the fact that we are creating our reality. Our thoughts are impacting the quantum field all the time, and what we think about and how we feel about what we think about really results in us manifesting our world. This show is dedicated to what it means to be conscious in all areas of life, but particularly in the areas of science, health, medicine, business, finances, and the arts. Tonight's show is about conscious education. Now I have a question for you. What if every single child that came into this world was aware of this conversation, that they are just energy beings and that they have this amazing power to create their reality personally and collectively? Can you imagine the kind of world that we would live in if that were the case, if they had this level of wisdom and knowledge? Well, our guest tonight has done more than imagine this. Our guest is Ellen Hall, and she has actually developed and implemented a program to bring conscious education to the world. She is well qualified for this, being a consummate educator. She was a principal, a teacher. She founded many schools, and she is currently the executive director of Meditation Mount. She also has an impressive background in public service, including a stint as the mayor of Ojai. So I'm particularly delighted to be welcoming Ellen here tonight with this very important topic, conscious education. Ellen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's truly a pleasure to have you.
Great introduction. Thank you. It's a delight to be here.
Great. Thank
to
you.
be able to share my passion.
Yes.
And to be invited to do that, I'm really delighted.
And it's our passion to bring this kind of information out to the world. Stu, would
Yes.
you like to kick off our interview?
Absolutely. Ellen, yes, thank you for being here. I've got 5 kids, so this is very meaningful to me, too, this conversation about education and where they're going to go from here with their education. With all due respect to teachers out there, my sense is the educational system needs help. What has caused this to be, where it seems like there's a dislocation taking place right now where kids aren't as prepared for the world as they could be, and what can be done?
That's a huge question. It's a big question that a lot of people have been working on. There's been efforts to have this revolution in education for about a couple of decades at the least. And there's been all kinds of efforts to change the curriculum and change the way things are taught and change behavior management and all kinds of things. And it hasn't really worked. And what I've seen, this is from my life with children, is that the children that are coming in are really great. In fact, there's a different quality this is my own perception, there's a different quality in the last 40 years, that the new children that are coming in are more creative, brighter, less compliant than the ones that were coming in before. And so they're needing a different kind of education. And fundamentally, it's different. The difference is how we perceive children. If we see them as an empty mind that needs to be filled up with knowledge and facts, then that's working with just their brains. And what I would like to see, and what I'm working on with a lot of other people, is to see that whole child. See the child that comes a soul incarnate, if you want to make it that solid. But I see that as what's really important. And each child that comes has a gift. They have a gift they're coming to give the world. And what the job of education is to help them give that gift. Help them with the skills they need, help them with whatever it is that they've come to give. And if you have 5 children, then you know that each one of them is unique. Mm-hmm. They come in absolutely unique. Each one of them has their gifts, their skills, their interests. And if we work with that and help them with that part of their life, what kind of a world would it be if each one of these children could give what they've come here to do? Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, with all the great efforts, what schooling is doing is standardizing education, mm-hmm. is making it all, regimented, and it's not only difficult for children, but it's difficult, very difficult for teachers, mm-hmm. because they're creative and they want to respond to these individual children, but they have this standardized work that they have to do, mm-hmm. and 50% of teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years.
That's such an amazing statistic.
I just have to say that that's a powerful thing to look at.
It is.
What is causing, usually it's the teachers with the most passion mm-hmm. that are the best that are leaving.
You're the president and founder of a wonderful organization that sounds so exciting. The world, it's the New Education World Institute.
That's right.
Tell us about that, the New I.
Yes. Well, we started discussing new education probably a year ago. We were having this conversation, and with a small group of people, and then more and more people were joining it. And I traveled quite a bit. I was doing some consulting in Italy with a school, and it became international. Many different countries are having the same issue. And I think this whole way of dealing with children is an emerging idea. It's something that is moving across the planet. It's not working to educate children to prepare them to work in factories or even in corporations, because that's just not the world. The world now is where we create our life. It's what you said in the beginning. Mm-hmm. We're here to create a new world, our own lives, mm-hmm. and each child has that potential. But if we are standardizing, the children aren't happy, the teachers are leaving, even the grades aren't, the numbers aren't working. Mm-hmm. So that's what this group is working at, is, well, then what would work? How do we respond to the mm-hmm. children coming in? Mm-hmm. And it's a great group of teachers, administrators, principals, businessmen, all parents. Lots of parents have this serious concern about their children mm-hmm. and how to educate them. Mm-hmm. So
I was really taken with when I read your prospectus on saying that what really is missing is that the soul of the child is not addressed.
Yes.
And that's so important. And it really has nothing to do with religion, does it?
Nothing.
Nothing to do with religion. It's really about understanding that everything is energy. Mm-hmm. And understanding that everything is energy, people will be able to embrace this new concept mm-hmm. of children creating their reality, allowing their own expressive creativity to come forth. and express their uniqueness as that energy being having that human experience.
And that's the soul quality of each child.
Yeah.
It is unique. Each one has their own frequency. They have their own qualities. Each human being does.
Right,
and that's their
right.
soul quality.
What I like to say is that we're all an expression of the divine in human form.
Yes.
I know it sounds a little trite, but it's really
the truth.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the truth. And if you're working with children and you meet them face to face, eye to eye, and you look inside them to see the soul, that soul comes forth in great joy. It's a very different way of perceiving a child, as perceiving them as this empty bucket that we have to fill up with a bunch of stuff. And then they're bored.
Completely bored. Yeah, and that's where all the behavior problems come from, I bet.
I was going to say there are other alternatives to what seems to be the public school system
Yes.
or even some of the private schools, like a Montessori or perhaps
Yes.
even a Waldorf.
Yes.
So is there something in their approaches that are either missing or a little off that you're bringing to the table?
No, I don't think so. They both came in around World War II, and they were speaking to the children of that time, and they did introduce the idea that children have a spiritual nature that you have to address in education, and I think they created a foundational place or platform for us to launch from, because there's more to it. Steiner has Waldorf has fabulous things, and so does Montessori. But there are new children coming. There's a new world that is upon us, and those things gave us a foundation, a platform to launch from. That's how I see it, and that's how this group sees it. So I wouldn't say we're starting something new. I think we're actually building on some very good, positive things that have taken place that see the soul of the child.
Like Montessori.
That are heart-centered, that are joyful. The children in that kind of environment have a really good time. They laugh a lot, they create a lot, they're joyful. So
when we first met on the phone, we were chatting about the show. I guess my thought was that the focus would be on the children, right? That the children, the focus would be on the children coming in. But actually, your program, New Eye, is not about that. It's about the focus on the teachers. So
yes.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Well, I think the children are great. The children coming are brilliant and beautiful. They're not the problem. The children aren't the problem. And I think parents are generally supportive. Parents, they're devoted to their kids, generally speaking, and they want the best for their children. I don't think the parents are a problem. After all these years in working in schools, what I see is that teachers are trained in this old paradigm. They're trained in, the bell rings, you teach for a certain period of time, one subject, then another subject. It's an old paradigm. It was established to help in the Industrial Revolution to put people into jobs in factories. I mean, it's a little rough to say, but it is really how it began. And we keep doing it, and it doesn't serve any longer.
That's why the basics, the 3 R's, right? It would make sense that it would be more attuned to the Industrial Revolution than today.
Yeah, and so the teachers are discouraged, and teachers can have a huge impact on many, many children in their lives, hundreds and hundreds of children. So doing a new kind of work with teachers is what we've decided. At least that should be the beginning. That should be the beginning. And the New Eye is about, well, let's say you're starting teaching and you are standing in front of 25 10-year-olds. There you are. And you have no idea who you are, and you have no idea then who they are.
Right.
And it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the school, the classes that we're working on is, who am I? That's the New Eye. What is a human being? And working with that first until you know that you're energy and you understand an open heart. and all of those things before you come into a classroom with children, then you perceive the children in a completely different way.
The same way you perceive yourself.
Yes, exactly.
So now teachers who are retrained or awakened to this conversation, are they able to function in a system that doesn't support that currently, or is that like the first step in shifting the entire educational system?
That's a great question, because it is a problem. A lot of teachers that have that consciousness go into the public schools and have difficulty. So it is a problem. There are many avenues that they can work in. You know, they can work in charter schools, there's homeschool parents, there's all kinds of alternatives. But we have to start with a model so that the public schools can make a shift. We have to start with a successful model. And I think it starts with teachers. That's, when I was a principal, that was the most difficult task, was hiring teachers. Because the young ones were so eager and enthusiastic, and they had been trained in a system that wasn't responsive to children. Most of the really great teachers were women who'd had children, and they've been through what it was like to raise children. You know, so I think it has a great potential to change education if we have a different kind of teacher training.
Well, I love the the acronym, the new I, and I know that it's the new institute, right?
Right.
With the acronym for the other words, but the new I is really what we're looking to do, is to create a new way of perceiving ourselves.
And we're looking at, as an institute, as a place where you study something. It's not a college where we have all the answers and we're teaching it. It's a place where we come together, and with a group intelligence, we can resolve these issues, rather than having a set curriculum where we say that we have the answer and we're going to tell you what the answer is. It's more that we all have this intelligence, we have a passion for children, we all really care about this. And with some efforts and some working together, we can resolve this issue with schools. It might not happen right away. What's interesting to me is that there's interest around the world.
There is, because it's all a part of our evolution. You know, it's not just isolated to the United States. I mean, this is a conscious humanity that, a humanity that's becoming more and more conscious all the time. And that's why the children that are coming in are so much more bright and brilliant and creative, I think, than perhaps, in prior decades.
Yes. And we can't squelch that.
No.
Because they're the ones creating the new world.
They are.
We have to
they
come
are our
up
future.
to it. That's right.
Exactly.
And to your point earlier, you mentioned how the structure of our current educational system is really a legacy of the industrial age. Well, we're no longer in the industrial age.
Exactly.
And so that could largely explain why so many kids coming out of college are finding it difficult to have a job here. Because a lot of these industrial jobs have gone overseas to where people may not even be educated much at all in a formal way, and are handling these jobs that don't require as much creativity or innovation.
Well, in the past, if you wanted knowledge, you wanted to know about something, you had to go to a place. You had to go to a school. You had to go to a place where that knowledge existed. But now you can pick up your phone. You don't they know that. The children know that. The information is all available. So what are they going to school for?
Right.
My son asks me that frequently, and he's in high school, of course.
Isn't this the
I was
truth?
asking my parents the same thing. What am I doing here?
What am I doing here? No. And there are many things that we know about through research. There's a lot of science right now that is supporting all of this. One of the things is that we've known for many decades is that you learn through doing something. You don't learn as much by reading about it. You know, if you're just talking about how to grow vegetables, you can read a book about it. You're not going to learn the same as if you're actually growing the vegetables. So there's a lot of shifting in education that needs to take place as a result of the research that's being done. Another great research is that immersion in the natural world, immersion in nature, has an effect on how well you can concentrate. Now this is really established scientific research, and yet look at a school. What do you have? Cement everywhere.
Right. You don't have
You
a
know,
natural world.
So what are the findings there in terms of exposure or immersion
Yeah.
in nature? What
Yeah.
happens
Well,
to
one
the
of the
kids?
things is that if you have a window where you see green out the window, you will be able to concentrate better. That's a pretty outrageous result, but that's one of the results.
And before it was your daydreaming, get your eyes back to your
yes,
book, right?
Yes, exactly.
I was going to ask, what are you concentrating on exactly?
Exactly.
Right.
That's what my grandson says. He said, I am focused, I am concentrating, I'm just not concentrating on what you want me to concentrate on.
Right.
You know, so it's a different
So
world when you're talking to children about it. They understand that. They want to be outside. And why is that? Why do they want to be outside? They also want to move. They want to physically be active. And there's tons of research now that the physical movement of the body is important to the learning, is important to our brains and how our brains work. All of these, there's a lot of innovations, and they're all there. They're just not in place. We're so focused as a nation on this standardizing that we're not picking these things up. We're not changing the way we educate.
It's happening, and I think that you're really on the right track with educating the teachers. It just makes total sense. So I'm very curious if you've developed curriculum yet in educating the teachers, and what might be the the fine points of the curriculum to educate the teachers.
Yes, we actually have. We have a 4-year curriculum that is for, well, two semesters for 4 years. So it's 5 classes all that time. And it's the core class is Who Am I? And that is for 2 years, working on, let's say one of the things teachers need to really work with is emotional intelligence, and how the emotions affect learning. So that if you're in a classroom and someone's crying and upset because their girlfriend wouldn't eat lunch with them or something, they can't learn anything. So the idea of how to work with emotions and what is the emotional intelligence is really important. But instead of teaching the teachers emotional intelligence, we're going to work with their emotions. So it's really about a self exploration. It's about learning about yourself. And as you become wise about yourself, you become a wise teacher. Yeah. And that's how the first 2 years and the last 2 years of this curriculum are about how to teach. What is teaching? Who am I as a teacher? What is the relationship? How do children learn? You know, you can't really teach anyone anything. I don't know if you ever thought about this. But until someone says, until they say, until they do that, which is internal inside them, there is no exchange. You can talk and talk and talk, and it doesn't go.
And they can memorize and read and
Exactly.
memorize and read and regurgitate it on a
Yes.
test and all of that. But
Yes.
there's not really any meaningful connection or communication there.
Right. And then there's always the question, comes up a lot, are you going to prepare these children and these teachers for the real world? How are they going to make a living? What are you actually expecting to happen? It's like with your children. You're going to wonder, how am I doing the best?
I got to tell you.
Yes, of course, perfect. Perfect, that's really important. And what we're doing is a study on the new work. What is work about, and how is work interrelated to education? And it's very, very hooked together. The work, what we're always saying is we're preparing children in education for their life, for their job, and yet it's not happening. What's happening is a lot of students are graduating from college with big debts and no job.
Right.
Well, how is the world changing? And how is it changing? It's changing because it's automated. You know, if we have a whole curriculum about work that is connected to this. I know it would I'd have to go on for a long time talking about it, but it's basically important to have that together with this new education. It's more than just it feels good to children to be respected and to have their gifts understood, but how are they going to use them in the world? And that's very important.
And I think it's very important for children to understand that their work in the world, whatever that shows up to be, is going to be a reflection of what their passion is and what their heart's desires are. And if they want to, my granddaughter is the most fabulous artist.
Yes.
I said to my son, encourage the art, give her art classes, you know, really help her to develop that, because she's brilliant.
Yes.
And, you know, he's had these ideas of other things that are going to be bringing in the money and all of that. It's sad to see so many people today, a lot of my clients I see, you know, really don't know. They're in jobs that are traps. And if they're making a lot of money, that's a really big trap, because you're not going to leave that, because then you have a lifestyle that you're trying to meet. And so I think a big part of this would be helping children really get in touch with what they love to do, and then working on it from there. And what I would believe, this is a hypothesis I would suggest, is that if children, as they grew up and would go through the appropriate education in college, would always listen to their hearts and focus on what they want to do, they're never going to have to worry about the job, because the job's going to come. Plus, we're creators of our reality. So why wouldn't they just simply create the perfect reality for what they want to be doing through their intentions and their focus? So it all comes back to who we are.
It does. And I think they know that. If you listen to children and honor what they're saying and help them do what they want to do, I think they really have a sense of that. They come in with a job. They have a sense that they have a purpose. And then we say, oh, no, you have to do this, 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 and they, you know, they get a little bit.
Do you want to make money? Well, forget about that.
Yeah, but that's, you know, we know now that you're successful financially when you're doing what you gifted to do and what you're doing what you love. That's when you can be successful financially. So it doesn't really translate. Those things don't really work anyway. So
At the Institute, just to kind of keep it going here.
Okay.
The Institute is physically located right now in Ojai, California, not far from Santa Barbara, for those of you not in the area. And at a place where you are the executive director called Meditation Mount. So is there a link here between
There's a link
between meditation and how you are helping to kind of engineer the teaching mode here?
Well, yes, not only have I been working in education all these years, but I've also been a meditator for 40 years. So to me, those two things go together in my life. Also, the board at Meditation Mount is seeing this as, with all this meditating and spiritual life, it should be emerging into our practical life. We should have a new economy coming out of our consciousness. We should have a new way of doing business, a new way of doing medicine, coming out of a new consciousness. And they see this as very productive, that we're looking at the new education from a meditation center. And it's giving us a wonderful facility to begin in. You know, that's a wonderful
it's a beautiful facility.
Beautiful.
Everything else.
It's
so
really beautiful.
Can you help to maybe break it down for us a little bit? So we start to meditate.
Yes.
Okay, which is a quieting of the mind.
Right.
And letting go of some of the things that we take as a given. Right. And so the way things have been don't necessarily mean that they need to continue to go that way. Right. And so what exactly does meditation do to help to open up these channels of creativity, or however you would describe that?
Well, I would say that meditation opens your inner life. You know, your connection to your soul is made through your meditation. And children already have that connection. And when they get to school, we're telling them, this is a material world, and we're going to prepare you for a material life, and quit daydreaming, and don't look out the window, and, you know, you're here to do this material world. And if school acknowledged their inner life as well, that is the beginning of a meditative life. At the school, last school I worked at, we had, before we had any assemblies, the entire school, that would be from preschool through high school, spent a few minutes in silence. And it always surprised a lot of people. There were 200 children, how they loved it. It was like, oh, great, we get to be quiet for a few minutes. It's something that is the inner life of the child is fed through going in and being silent and being with their selves. So
was that at Grove School?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's just natural. It's just natural that children, we don't have to keep them running all day, all night, you know, with their classes, their horse riding and ballet and all the things that they do. It's not that they shouldn't do all those things, but we don't. There can be times in a child's day when they can lay in the hammock and look at the light coming through the trees. This is as important, their inner life and their imagining and their soul quality is as important as what we're asking them to do on the outer. And that's how I see those two go together. Is that?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
I was just
Good.
to follow up. I'm noticing, and as I said, I've got a few children
Yes,
as my little test sample here, that I've noticed that as they focus on the material world,
Yes.
they expect to continue to be busy
Yes.
and continue to be booked with their time.
Yes.
And if there is any sort of space, Dad, I'm bored. You know, and it's like, okay, I got to start dancing and then, you know, putting on a routine for them to engage them or something. And I'm just seeing how that is a cycle that can be vicious. Truth be told, I notice I've started to develop a little bit of a habit myself of checking my phone for no reason.
Exactly.
Even though it seems like it happens on a regular basis, and it's not just me.
No,
you know,
it's the world.
It's a phenomenon.
How
that's
do
going on
we
here.
deal with how do we deal with life without a screen in our hand? I mean, it's just amazing. I'm not like the young people today. My God, my son doesn't go anywhere without his. And my granddaughter now the same thing. You know, this you have to have the phone.
Well, it's a problem for teachers. They're doing this under the table. You know, they're looking up like
and
they're
they're so
pretending they're listening
proficient
to you,
at
but
texting.
all this is going on because of that energy, that constant having to be entertained or having to be engaged or having to be busy. And that's what we model, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, we act like that ourselves, and that's what they're learning. Children are brilliant learners. They learn everything, but they learn from who you are, what you model, more than what you say.
Yeah.
So they're learning this is how you operate in the world, is you are keeping busy and you're running, and so we need to model the quiet. We need to model the calming down.
Maybe you could use the motto, the new I, not the new iPhone.
That's it.
Toss it out, it's a freebie.
That was good, Stu.
It's yours.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
One of the quotes that you sent me that I really loved was the quote from the Dalai Lama. And share that with our audience. It's really a wonderful quote.
Well, let me think. No, I can't remember.
It was the quote about the Dalai Lama saying that education, about the material world.
Oh, yes. He was saying that we have to be aware that the education that's focused on the material world has really huge shortcomings. It isn't about the human being. It isn't enough to focus on the material world. Yeah, it's the great teachers are aware of this issue with children. The Dalai Lama just did a whole, it was somewhere in the South, I think it was Louisiana. He went and talked to groups of children because he's seeing that the children really need this infusion of a spiritual life.
The Dalai Lama?
Yes, he did. He did.
Wow.
It wasn't a real publicized thing, but a friend of mine was there with him and helping him. And his interest, his passion for children is, it's there because they are the ones that are going to bring a change in consciousness. And they need to be addressed and not get stuck in this activity run. That requires us not to be. And it requires the teachers to take a breath. You know, when you're in a classroom, if you start talking softer, they start talking softer.
And they start listening more carefully.
They do. They do. If you're all wound up and then they're all wound up, it has so much they learn from us.
It's called resonance.
Resonance, that's it. That's it.
Again, in your perspectives, which I really loved reading, you and your colleagues view education as a transformational journey.
Yes.
Guided by all the souls involved.
Yes.
All the souls involved. So it's not just the teachers,
No.
it's not just the students, right?
Right.
It's the parents, and it's the community, and it's everyone.
Well,
It's everyone.
because children are great sponges. They absorb whatever it is, whatever is in their town, whatever their grandparents are interested in, and what their grandparents do, and what their parents do, and their neighbors and the other children. They're great learners. You know, if you watch a baby, they're just into everything. They're just going for it everywhere. And they're that way till they get to school. And then they're so eager. They want to learn everything.
Right.
And after a few years of being told to sit still and be quiet and don't talk and listen to what someone else has to say, they're kind of bummed out about the whole thing, about going to school.
Right.
You know, not all children. Some children really respond well to the traditional education as it is now. And I'm not saying that all children, but most children need to have more physical activity, more engagement in doing and learning, and also more attention to their inner life.
So I imagine that certainly meditation will be part of the curriculum for the teachers, right? And do you see also this being a part of the curriculum for the students as well? Is having a daily meditation time, I mean, would it be like a class, or would it be just, 10 minutes of silence or 5 minutes of silence? How do you and your colleagues see that unfolding?
Well, we're in the midst of a lot of research about that right now. There's several universities in the Midwest that are doing tremendous research on children and what the effect of meditation is. One video that I've seen is a school in Chicago where it was in the worst part of Chicago, and principals wouldn't take the job working there. It was a very difficult place, and you could see the tension in the children when you were there. And all they did was have 12 minutes of silence in the morning and 12 minutes of silence at the end of the day. They didn't do meditation, they just had the whole school be quiet. And all the grades lifted up, all the violence lowered, the attendance lifted. It has tremendous effects, but it's the silence that allows you to go inside. I don't know if we need to direct children in a meditative way, but I think they need the quiet so that they can connect with their own soul, their own essence, their own energy.
And I think as children are encouraged to get clear on what they want to create in their lives, and what their dreams are, and what their visions are, and what makes them happy. And even if they were to have that 10 minutes of silence where they would focus on what makes them happy and what their dreams are, then it would be, again, building up that resonant field to bring that about in their lives at some point in time. I remember being a fan of Oprah's. She talked about, she had a pretty challenging childhood, and as I understand it, and what she said was how she would deal with her challenges as she would get lost in TV magazines. The soap opera magazines on television. She loved the whole television soap opera thing. And that's what she wanted to do. And that was her escape.
Exactly.
That's where she went to really nurture herself and to assuage her sorrow and the challenges that she was dealing with. And look what she did. And
Amazing.
She actually manifested it. And I love Oprah, and yet she's not like the cover of a Vogue magazine like you see today. Not that I emulate that at all, but she's a brilliant woman, but someone who perhaps wouldn't be picked out of the crowd. And yet here she is one of the most renowned women in the world because she held on to her dream. Yeah.
And, you know, anyone in any neighborhood with any group of children can use any of these ideas to support, to look for what is the soul of the child, what is their essence, what is their energy saying that they want to do, and help them do that. Even if it's after school, you know, if they want to build mechanical things, to help them do that. Help them express their own essence.
Right.
And we can do this in many ways. We're working with teachers now, but we can do this in our neighborhoods. We can do it in different countries. We can help children be themselves and support that in many different ways. Yeah. And I think
really
that's what
exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering, because speaking of exciting, there are a lot of exciting findings in science, whether it's quantum physics
Yes.
or cellular biology,
Yes.
that indicates we are not, you know, the who am I question
Yes.
from a biological and physical standpoint.
Yes.
You know, it's not what it seems.
Right.
You know, there's something
Right.
else going on here.
Right.
You know, that we appear to be solid when in fact, physically we're not. And so I'm wondering how much of the quantum physics and or cellular biology, Patricia and I have spoken with Bruce Lipton, a foremost
Yes.
authority on cellular biology,
Yes.
who has talked about how our cells literally physically respond to the environment. You know,
Yes.
he talked about sponges.
Yes.
We're all sponges around
Yes.
here.
Yes.
In
And
fact-
depending upon what we surround ourselves with, we could begin to evolve and to morph into, you know, anything we surround ourselves with. And so I'm wondering how much of that you are bringing into the institute.
Well, the new science is really is the essential, because it really is supporting the new education. The combination is important, that they work together. Amit Goswami is you know him. He's a physicist, a quantum physicist, and he was in Ojai talking about how he was an atheist, and he felt that everything was a material world, and that he knew consciousness existed because he was conscious. And so he tried to put it into his formulas for a material world, and he couldn't get it in.
When you say
work.
he was conscious, what do you mean?
Well, he knew he had consciousness, so it must be part of the world.
Right.
He
Okay.
just knew that had to fit into some formula, and he couldn't get it to fit. And one day he flipped it around and he said, maybe it's all consciousness, and the material world is just an aspect of consciousness. And then all his formulas worked. And I was talking to him about what an effect this would have on education. If consciousness was the basis of reality, rather than the material world, how would we treat children differently? What would education look like if consciousness was really the whole of being, and the material world was just a part? Then our whole way of looking at education and at children would be different. And he agreed with that.
Well, I'm sure. And Bruce Lipton and all the great luminaries that are rising up today with their work, you know, many of them were atheists.
Yes.
Or agnostics at the very least. Bruce Lipton is the first one to admit it.
Yes.
And he actually, in one of his books, said, we're actually God in the body. And I looked that whoa. And I was like, you know, it is something that I've always known, but I've never really, you know, it was blasphemous to say something like that, being raised as a Catholic, you know.
Yes.
So what
Well, you
do
know what,
think-
Bruce? He is really making the point that it needs to start with, well, even pre-birth.
Oh, he says parents are genetic engineers.
Yes.
They are. Yep.
And that whole period of time until they start school is when everything is set.
Right.
And so we're looking at that in the Institute. How can we expand the idea of education beyond just the years of school and really look at even preconception? There's a lot going on in that area.
He says
and
that
it's
from,
very important.
from conception through age
Yes.
6, the children are like little psychic sponges,
right.
and that everything that goes in ex utero, you know, as well as after they're born, it has an impact on the child. It goes in because children, are in an alpha state of consciousness. The fetus, everything until age 6 are in an alpha state of consciousness. So everything goes in like truth, and like a program. It goes in like a computer program in a biocomputer, because we're like biocomputers. So it's critically important that parents realize the responsibility that they have, to educate. So we're coming to the close of the interview, and I know. But so I'd like to ask you, what do you think would be the ultimate result? Maybe this is a rhetorical question, but what would be the ultimate result of an educational shift like you're speaking about with the new eye? Well, how do you think it would really impact the world from the big picture standpoint?
Oh, I do imagine this. I use that as a bigger picture motivation for myself. And just imagine each child coming in with a gift for the world and being helped to give that gift, and being in the joy of creativity, of being able to create this life that is fulfilling their reason for being on the earth. What kind of an earth would this be? It would be extraordinary.
It would be heaven on earth.
It would be heaven on
Louis
earth.
Armstrong singing to us.
Yes,
what a wonderful world.
What a wonderful
heaven on earth.
I mean, it would be. It really would. It's if the shift took place, and I don't have any doubts that it will. I see it emerging all over. It's not just this institute. It's all over the world. This impulse to change the way we deal with children and the way we educate them. It's a worldwide, and it's a spiritually influenced impulse that I would like to help move forward.
Helen, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
I love
great.
this.
You're
Thank
fantastic.
you. Thank you.
Before we wrap up the interview, though, I would like to ask you, what would be your suggestion to our viewers as to what they might do? What can we do to support this project and move it forward? What are the action steps that we can take?
Well, you could get in touch with me and join this movement, or you could do it in a local way. You can work with your local school. You work with local children. The most exciting thing, I've interviewed a lot of children and taped those interviews, and when they're helped to do what they want to do, when there's a gentleman down the street in his garage that'll help them learn how to do welding, or there's an artist that invites children in, that's the joy, is to find the help for what it is they want to create. So there's a huge range of working on this from an institutional level to working at it from your own life.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us today. It was
Thank
really
you.
a wonderful, wonderful conversation, and I totally support you in your work, and I'll be sending you some teachers.
Oh, good.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I hope I know you'll enjoy the remainder of the show. We have a couple more segments to go. So
thank you.
Thank you
you're
so much,
very,
Ellen.
very
Enjoyed
welcome.
it.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to be hearing from Stu with his Stu's Views.
Well, thank you, Patricia. So let's take a little view with an insight, if you don't mind. And with the topic here being the new eye. I've been kind of working on that one myself for a little while, if you know what I mean. And I'm inviting you to play the game right along with us, because the bottom line is that we are energy beings. We are consciousness. And what I've noticed, and maybe you do too, that there may be a lot beyond our control, but one of the things that we can very much control and literally shift our consciousness, as we're talking about meditation, we could also talk about breathing. And just simply by taking a deep breath, like so, and you know how to do it. I notice that it changes how I feel in my body. And if I have a series of these breaths in a row, nice and deep, and connect to something that is like the source of my own being, and you connect to the source of your own being, I begin to notice that it is just about a miracle that I or any of us exist at all on a profound level. And when I pay attention to that notion, as I breathe, I begin to shift in consciousness. I begin literally to evolve into the title of the show. And I become to get more conscious now. And so consciousness for me and for you as well, and for all of us here, it's more than just a concept. And it's more than just a state of mind. It's actually a full-bodied participation number. And so I'm inviting you to breathe deeply often. And I'm inviting you to pay attention to the very real possibility that all of our existence here is a long shot. And dare I say, a true blessing and a true miracle. So that's it. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you,
I think
Patricia.
breath is key. Breath is the key. And breath and meditation is very, very important. We know that. Okay, so the quote tonight that I've selected, I selected it with actually the help of our guest, Ellen Hall, with our topic tonight, conscious education. And this is one of her favorite quotes and one of my favorite quotes, and it's something that we've probably all heard. And it's from another gem from Uncle Albert, as in Einstein, of course. And he says that no problem can be solved from the consciousness that created it. No problem can be solved from the consciousness that created it. We can't shift education by having the same thinking over and over and over again. We've got to get out of our comfort zone. We've got to get out of our box and move into our imagination of how we can think the world can be. We are creators of our reality. Our thoughts are impacting the field all the time. So if we think the same thoughts over and over and over again, what are we creating? We're going to create the same. The same equals the same. And this is echoed also in the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, which Stu and I had the privilege of interviewing several weeks ago, and you'll be seeing that show in a few months. And Dr. Dispenza is a neuroscientist, and he's an expert in brain science. And he has written 2 books, one called Evolving the Brain, and the second one called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And what he tells us is that when we have a negative thought, or we're thinking the same thing over and over again, what we literally do is we create this neural net loop in our brain that keeps us looping over and over again like a rat on a wheel. We have a negative thought that causes a negative emotion, that then causes a negative thought, and we're over and over and over in the same, we're not being able to get out of that. And we cannot access the most important part of the brain for creativity, and that is the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is where we create from. It's where our imagination, where we can work with our imagination and then take the things that we imagine, our dreams, our desires, our visions, our goals, and actually bring them into existence. Because when we're free in the frontal lobe and we're not looped over and over again in that same conversation, then that brilliant thought has the opportunity to go down through the rest of the mechanisms of the brain and out through the base of the neck, the medulla oblongata, I believe it's called, and into the field. And we know that our thoughts are impacting the field, causing the wave of that subatomic particle, and an infinite number of them make up the field, to collapse into matter. So it's very important for us to understand that imagination, visualizing, imaging, and it all really comes back to aligning with our true nature. It comes back to being awake and aware that everything is energy that we see in the material world, that we are energy, that our thoughts are energy. So I want you to contemplate that and think about those places in your life where you're stuck, where you're trapped, where you can't seem to move past that financial block, or you can't seem to bring in the right partner, or you're struggling over and over and over again with the same problem with your physical body and you're not making any headway with it. Change your thinking and you'll change your life. And we talked about this in the last show, Max Planck. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so I think that this is particularly relevant for shifting our education. And as we spoke today with Ellen, really developing this new education. But you know what? It's about every single aspect of our life, not just education, every single aspect of our life. When we realize that we can't solve the problem from the same consciousness that created it. So, well, this has been a great show.
Yes, it is.
What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah, I
can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. And I loved having Ellen with us today. It was really great.
Fantastic.
It was really wonderful. So I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to acknowledge our sponsors. We have State and Fig Restaurant, and we also have Twyla Kim, hairstylist, Dr. Gregory Lowe, who is an attorney working with us, and also Marcia Orland, who is our editor. And I really appreciate all of you participating as part of the team in Get Conscious Now. And so I guess we're ready to close the show.
So until next time.
Until next time, Get Conscious Now. I guess we're not done.
I guess we're not done, so we get to stay.
Hello, I'm Twyla Kim. I've been an artist and hairstylist in Santa Barbara for 20 years. I personalize color, design, and precision haircuts for each individual at Sequel Salon in Montecito.
Welcome to State and Fig, located in the picturesque La Ricotta Plaza, serving locally sourced cuisine inspired by the flavors of the Riviera.
I'm attorney Gregory Lowe. I will prepare your trust, bankruptcy, divorce, conservatorship, probate, evictions. All of this I can do at an affordable price and with caring. Thank you very much.
When I was growing up as a kid, I used to go around with them and watch them.
My mother and I both worked at Lowry Field. To keep on doing this together.